All right, I'm here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thursday, the 29th of October, 2025 days to go until we reach the crossroads in American history, or the fork in the road. Let's put it that way. Are we going to go down the fork that leads to the fulfillment of the dream of fascism in this country that has been extant for a number of years, but it took the arrival of a psychopath like Donald Trump to bring fascism so close to becoming the way this country is governed? Or are we going to take the other fork that will lead us to some real upsetting times? And I'll tell you why. You know this, of course. Trump has destroyed just about every institution, severely wounded it, not destroyed it beyond repair, just about every institution of U.S. government, of our ability to govern ourselves, faith in the country that we all call home. He has severely injured it. I might get to Frank Bruni's column in the New York Times today, which talks about the same issue. But we will be making a decision, for the most part, next Tuesday, November 3rd. I realize that the election will not be decided absolutely on November 3rd, but there will be enough of an indication as to which direction we're going to go. So hold on to your ass. That's all I can tell you. I was talking to somebody, I forget who it was, I think yesterday, about fear. Are we afraid of what's going to happen? And the person I was talking to and I both agreed that yes, we're both afraid. Not ashamed to admit it. Let me share with you what Frank Bruni wrote. And I think, in fairness, I should quote most of this, just quote it directly. Let me see here. Yeah, okay. So here goes. And the title of his piece, How Will I Ever Look at America the Same Way Again? It's always assumed that those of us who felt certain of Hillary Clinton's victory in 2016 were putting too much trust in polls. I was putting too much trust in Americans. I'd seen us err. I'd watched us stray. Still, I didn't think that enough of us would indulge a would-be leader as proudly hateful, patently fraudulent, and flamboyantly dishonest as Donald Trump. We had episodes of ugliness, but this? No way. We were better than Trump. Except, it turned out, we weren't. Never mind that the Russians gave him a boost or that he lost the popular vote. Some 46% of the Americans who cast ballots for president in 2016 picked him. And as he moved into the White House and proceeded to soil it, most of those Americans stood by him solidly, so that Republicans in Congress didn't dare to cross him, and in fact went to great conscience-immolating lengths to prop him up. These lawmakers weren't swooning for a demagogue. They were reading the populace. And it was a populace I didn't recognize, or at least I didn't want to. What has Trump's presidency taken from us? I'm reasonably sure that many Americans feel the same loss that I do, and I'm struggling to assign just one word to it. Would it be innocence or optimism or faith? Go to the place on the Venn diagram where those states of mind overlap. That's the piece of me now missing when I look at this beloved country of mine. Trump snuffed out my confidence, flickering but real, that we could go only so low and forgive only so much. With him, we went lower, or at least a damningly large percentage of us did. In him, we forgave florid cruelty, overt racism, rampant corruption, exultant indecency, the coddling of murderous despots, the alienation of true friends, the alienation of truth itself, the disparagement of individual institutions, the degradation of essential democratic traditions. He played Russian roulette with Americans' lives. He played Russian roulette with his own aides' lives. In a sane and civil country of the kind I long thought I lived in, his favorability ratings would have fallen to negative integers, a mathematical impossibility, but a moral imperative. In this one, in this universe, they never changed all that much. Polls from mid-October showed that about 44% of voters approved of Trump's job performance. And this was after he'd concealed aspects of his coronavirus infection from the public, shrugged off the larger meaning of it, established the White House as his own super spreader environment, and cavalierly marched on. 44%. Who in God's name are we? I'm not forgetting pre-Trump American history. I'm not erasing hundreds of years of slavery, the internment of Japanese Americans, the many kinds of discrimination that have flourished in my own lifetime, all the elections in which we Americans made stupid choices, and all the presidents who did un-American things. We're a grossly imperfect country, but our behavior is at frequent odds, of course, with our ideas. But for every abomination, I could name a moment of grace. For many of our sins, stabs at atonement. We demonstrated a yearning to correct our mistakes, and I think a tropism toward goodness. On balance, we were open, generous. When I traveled abroad, people from other countries routinely complimented Americans for that. They experienced us as arrogant, but also as special. And now they just pity us. How much of this can we pin on Trump? Not as much as we try to. And oh, how we've tried. This obsession of the news media and his detractors with every last eccentricity and inanity isn't just about keeping a complete record, I've come to realize. It's also a deflection, an evasion. If he gets the whole of the stage, then Americans' complicity and collaboration are shoved into the wings. And the freakier we make him out to be, the less emblematic he is. The more he becomes a random, isolated event, and we emphasized what a vanquishable opponent Hillary Clinton was, because that diminished the significance of the vanquishing and the vanquisher. We spoke of a perfect storm of circumstances that led to his election as a way of disavowing the weather. We cheered on Robert Mueller's investigation, not just because it might hold Trump and his wretched accomplices to account, but also because it might explain him away, proving that he reached the White House by cheating, not because he was what nearly half of the country decided they wanted. We tried to make him a one-and-done, one-off. But deep into his presidency, when his execrable character had been fully exposed, his Fox News cheerleaders continued to draw huge audiences for their sycophantic rhetoric. Trump himself continued to attract crowds to his rallies, like the one in Greenville, North Carolina, in July 2019, when he pressed his attack on 4 Democratic congresswomen of color, including Representative Ilhan Omar, who emigrated immigrated from Somalia. Egged on by him, his audience chanted, "Send her back! Send her back!" He stopped speaking to give those words room, and he soaked them in. Or what about the recent rally in Muskegon, Michigan, where he freshly assailed that state's governor, Gretchen Whitmer, despite the fact that his obsessive denunciations of her had possibly been a factor in an alleged plot by 14 men to kidnap her. "Lock her up!" many of the attendees bellowed, to Trump's obvious amusement. And how has his approval ratings not fallen to negative integers? I'm not saying that support for him is spun entirely of malice or bias. Keen economic anxiety and profound political estrangement are why many voters turn to him. As my Times colleague Farrah Stockman recently explained especially well, that was set in America's disheartened heartland. She noted, quote, "Even false hope is a form of hope, perhaps the most ubiquitous kind," end quote. The headline on the article that she wrote was "Why They Loved Him." But why haven't more of them stopped loving him? And how did so many Americans beyond that group fall so hard for him, thrilling to his recklessness, applauding his divisiveness, indulging his unscrupulousness? He tapped into more cynicism and nihilism than this land of boundless tomorrows was supposed to contain. He tapped into more conspiratorialism, too, and I do mean tapped. Trump didn't draw out anything that wasn't already there, bubbling beneath the surface. He didn't sire white supremacists. He didn't script the dark fantasies of QAnon. He didn't create all the Americans who rebelled against protective masks and mocked those who wore them, a selfish mindset that helps explain our tragic lot. It just flourished under him. And it will almost certainly survive him. The foul spirit of these past 5 years, I'm including his hateful campaign, has been both pervasive and strangely proud. That's what makes it different. That's what makes it so chilling. I could be overreacting. Maybe just ahead, there will be moments of grace, enough of them to redeem us. Maybe I'll look up on or after November 3rd and see that Biden has won North Carolina, has won Michigan, has won every closely contested state and the presidency in a landslide. Maybe I'll have to eat my words. Please, my fellow Americans, feed me my words. I'd relish that meal. Woo, Frank Bruni, who writes the way I wish I could. But it's similar to what we've talked about on this podcast for years. Trump didn't create this horror. He was only the release valve who let it out, who let it become breathing and visible and living and right there in front of us for every single American to look at now, as we all have, and either celebrate this fascist horror or wonder where in the hell it came from and why it's here now. The Christians, the evangelical Christians, the white ones, the ones of no color, the hate-filled monsters who parrot real Christianity, who mock Jesus of Nazareth, those Christians, they knew that fascism lurked right below the surface for an awfully long time. The political surface, because religion is fascism. Top-down instructions on how you will live, what you will think and say and do under penalty of death, eternal death. Not the physical eternal death, but spiritual death. A consciousness after physical death that will be filled with torment. That is religion, and that is fascism, translated into the political genre. So here we are. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.